Good evening. Hi everybody, how are you? Are you ready to get this show on the road? I said, are you ready to get this show on the road? Alright, thank you. My name is Lawrence Carter Long. I'll be your MC. Thanks, very kind. Thanks, Mom. I appreciate that. I'll be your MC this evening. A couple of quick housekeeping announcements. One, if nature calls at some point during the evening, please use the bathrooms toward the back behind the Osher Foundation Center, behind the Osher room. Thank you. We really appreciate that, and that way we'll keep some of the fuss and the mess from up here from distracting people, so if you could do that. Secondly, we've got people running around here tonight with cameras, video cameras, regular old photo cameras, taking pictures, tweeting, sending things out on Facebook and on social media. So if you don't want to be seen, let them know. Otherwise, know that this could be used for some of Dredf's upcoming events and record keeping throughout the course of the next year. Okay? Okay? Good? Nobody wanted by the FBI? We're good to go? Yeah. Excellent. All right, so I'm going to start this off by thanking our sponsors. Our presenting sponsor, the Manuel D. and Rhoda Mayerson Foundation. Thank you. And also the California Endowments. Woo! Show us some love. AT&T. Yay! Hugh Roman service staff. Yes, thank you. All of our volunteers. Woo! The Ed Roberts campus staff. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's why the lights are on, that's why you can hear me. And of course, Dredf's board and staff. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund, 2017 into 2018. I'm a new kid on the block. I've just been here a little bit about 3 months now. I've got all California blonde, just for the occasion. And, you know, it's very interesting. About the first week that I was here, I intended to sort of make myself known to the staff, to introduce myself, to talk to people about, hey, what are you up to? What are you doing? What are your projects? What are your campaigns? What do I need to know about the work that you do? How can my work as the first ever Director of Communications, yeah, that gets a word, first ever Director of Communications at Dredf, make your work easier? How can I help you get information out to the news media and others about the work that you're doing, to all the staff? Now, I'd intended to do that, but the United States Congress had other ideas. It has been full tilt boogie almost ever since I walked through the door. The second day I was in Dredf's office, I was working on an action alert to try to save healthcare. And that's barely stopped during the time that I've been here. Bruce can tell you. He's there nodding, yes, yes, yes. So we've all been very busy on things like that. You know, when I look forward at the work Dredf is going to be doing for the next year, you know, the things that are keeping us busy on a day-to-day basis. First off, we've got HR 620. That gets a boo. Boo. Thank you. Which is euphemistically called, oh, I like that. Can I hear that again? Somebody honk. Who honked? Ooh, that was good. Euphemistically called the ADA Education and Reform Act of 2017. They're not looking to educate anybody. They're looking to remove the protections that we put into place with the ADA over 27 years ago. How much time do you need, people? The law was passed in 1990. If I told Susan, I'll get to it in 27 years, how long do you think I'd have my job? The other things we'll be working on, doesn't look like the Senate or the House is really giving up on healthcare anytime soon. They're still leg wrestling, still trying to figure out what kind of machinations they're going to do. So we've got to stay ever vigilant on that. And as we've seen just in the past week with Betsy DeVos and folks with India, no prompting even. Wow. You know, we've seen 73 guidelines and recommendations rescinded just in the last week. Now what that means for disabled students is anybody's guess. We're still awaiting clarification. Hopefully we'll get that in the next few days, but we've got to keep the pressure on. Whose cell phone? Now, make it a point, if you would please, to silence your cell phone. Otherwise, I don't have anything tying you down. See, I can go anywhere I want. And if your cell phone rings, and I see it, I might be compelled to answer. Just so you know. Jim knows I've done this to him before. So, those are the things we'll be working on. Another thing we'll be working on, which is near and dear to my heart, personally, is the relaunch and the revitalization of the Disability and Media Alliance Project, lovingly known as DMAP at Dreddick. Woo! And that's how I became familiar and acquainted and started working with Dreddick nearly, can you believe it, Susan, nearly a decade ago. And so, you know, how many of you have heard Dreddick's new podcast called The Dispatch? See what we get there? The Dispatch? All right, so we're going to get more of those more regularly in the upcoming year. This is from the front lines to the headlines, always in 20 minutes or less. And I would be remiss if I didn't give a special shout out here to Ray Lifshay. Ray, you put us over the top at Dreddick, made that donation, which allowed me to move westward. And I was so ready to get out of Washington, D.C. So for Dreddick and myself, I thank you very much. And it was Jim and Sarah's pushing, Jim Lebrecht, who's one of Dreddick's board members, and Sarah Boulder, who really pushed, like, I think he had some photographs or something. He won't tell me the truth. But it's there. Get this, everybody. We're here for a celebration, Dreddick's 38th anniversary celebration. Yeah! And just so happens that Jim and Sarah there are celebrating their 7th wedding anniversary. I know, give that an all. Everybody, 1, 2, 3. Yes. And they chose to spend it with us. Isn't that wonderful? Let's give it up for Jim and Sarah. No 7-year itch, right? Everything is good? Okay, all right. That's good. Thanks. And you might ask, in the course of all that work, all those things that I just mentioned, what can you do? Well, a few things. Go to our website, not right now. Don't play with your phone or your laptop, but go to the website, dredf.org, dredf.org. That's dredf.org. And sign up for action alerts. Stay up to the minute on what we're doing in terms of public policy, particularly with special education and some of those areas that we've been working on specifically for a number of years. Get on the list, find out what we're doing, keep us doing it, right? Push us, nudge us. If you see something we should be working on, let me know, let us know. Another thing you can be doing is get one or more other persons involved. If you're jazzed, if you're psyched, if you're happy about the work that Dreddick is doing, whatever compelled you to come here tonight, tell somebody else about that. Get them involved as well, because it takes all of us working together to make changes happen. And I think last and certainly not least, given the fact that it is a celebration but also a fundraiser, I got it in, Ingrid, did you notice? It's a celebration and a fundraiser. That, please, give what you can, when you can, as often as you can. We really appreciate it, because we wouldn't be able to do the work that we do without it. I want to tell you a little bit right now about one of the programs that Dreddick has had, and it's really central to a lot of the recognitions that we're giving tonight and we're talking about tonight, it's at the core of DREDF's work. And what I'm talking about is DREDF's Parent Training and Information Center. What we lovingly call, yes, give it a whoop, woo! Funded by the Department of Education. Now there are nearly 100 parent training and information centers and community parent resource centers across the U.S. and U.S. territories. But our favorite's right upstairs. Now what do we do there? Well, we're able to serve families of children with disabilities and young disabled adults from birth through age 26 across the totality of conditions and types of disability. Our fabulous education advocates help families do things like participate effectively in their children's education and development and obtain appropriate education and services for children with disabilities. We work to improve education results for all children. We train and inform parents and professionals on a variety of topics. We resolve problems between families and schools and other agencies, and you'll be hearing about that tonight from some people we've been able to help. And we connect children with disabilities to community resources that address their needs by partnering with professionals and policymakers to improve outcomes for all children with disabilities. Now, what are we talking about? What types of disabilities do you ask? Well, it's across the spectrum. This includes physical disabilities, sensory disabilities, cognitive disabilities, psychiatric disabilities, emotional disabilities, and yes, learning disabilities. So it's across the board. And tonight we're going to hear from two students that we've been able to assist through the years. We're going to start with Mr. Devion Jackson Seals. Devion, where are you, bud? Now, Devion. 7 years ago, DREDF honored Ms. Jacqueline Jackson. Ms. Jackie, right? That would be her. That would be Miss Jackie back there for her work and her advocacy on Devion's behalf. And today, it's particularly thrilling for me to have DREDF honor Devion, who now advocates for himself and others in his community. Devion, the stage is yours, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Devion Jackson Seals.
Hey, Devion!
I am 15 years old, and I was actually born in Oakland. And my great-grandmother, Miss Jackson, as you all know. Miss Jackson's, I've been with her since I was 2. I attended public schools since kindergarten, but it hasn't always been easy. There was times that was difficult, sometimes easy. When I was in grade school, my great-grandmother, Ms. Jackson, contacted the Parenting Training and Information Center at DREDF to get assistance in ending restraints and seclusion. During my time in grade school, together we all worked with the guidance and support of DREDF, and especially Ms. Cheryl. How are you? We got the school to stop restraining and seclusion and get me to the educational support required by law, like the Individual with Disability Education Act. Throughout time with role models like Ms. Cheryl and my mom, Ms. Jackson, I learned that it was important what has been the most important lesson of my life. That is important to advocate for not only for myself, but for other students as well. This is more than an abstract concept or actual idea. Putting together a positive behavior support plan, especially specialized instructors, and accommodations led to me earning the Superintendent's Award in 2016 for my graduation. Accommodations led to me learning the work ethics, attitude, and support for others. The award was presented to me, and I am grateful for it, but it's not my award alone. It was working with others and working together. That has made my education possible. I'm still young, and I have a lot to learn. But when asked, as Mr. Lawrence did ask, I was putting together this speech. My advice to other students of color with disabilities and parents is don't let anyone who doesn't know your child or you push you around. You have to stand up for what is best for you. It was by incorporation, consistency, and structure with goals that I could achieve and maintain that I am able to stand before you today as a living example that if you believe you and have the right support and accommodations to help you, you can achieve. And also, can I have the support team that helped me? Please stand. Thanks to each of you for making that possible for me and for countless others. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Daria! So, how about that? Kick things off, eh? Yeah. Right on. And it really crystallizes, I think, the work that we do, right? From the policy arena to one-on-one personal connection to changing things right there inside the schools for individuals' lives. To speak a little bit more about that type of work and how it really makes those changes possible is Namita Gupta. Namita, where are you? There you are. Namita is a DREDF staff attorney, and she's going to really break down for you some of those things, well, what you can talk about, right? In terms of our litigation work. So, with the litigation spotlight, let's see, Namita.
Hi. Usually I'm in the back of the room drinking a glass of wine. And today I'm at the front, and I'll drink some wine as soon as I'm done. So I've been a staff attorney at DREDF since 2014. And even though I've only been here a short period of time, compared to a lot of my other colleagues, I remain regularly astounded by the depth and breadth and scope of DREDF's litigation work. As you're seeing tonight, there are a lot of advocacy areas that DREDF focuses on, from special education reform, accessible entertainment, to healthcare. And there are entities that definitely line up to collaborate with DREDF to ensure that things like accessible student loan websites are accessible, as was the case with the U.S. Department of Education. We have a settlement agreement with them that DREDF's senior staff attorney, Larissa Cummings, who is in the back, she's been monitoring this settlement agreement since 2014. There's so many entities that want to actively work with DREDF, given our history and our expertise, but I can't tell you about them since we haven't filed any cases yet, and they're confidential. But please know that they're keeping us very busy. But there are also entities that, shall we say, remain stubborn, and for some reason won't acknowledge that their services or facilities are discriminatory toward people with disabilities unless we sue them. So let me tell you about one recent example that we can talk about. Did you know that 70 to 80% of people who have trouble reading are very likely dyslexic? In fact, 1 in 5 students, or 15 to 20% of the population, has a language-based learning disability. Dyslexia is the most common of these. School districts across the country fail and actively refuse to appropriately serve students with dyslexia. Right here, in the Berkeley Unified School District alone, hundreds of students are currently facing this kind of blatant discrimination. Clearly, these students are ignored or improperly supported. If these students are ignored or improperly supported, the effects are devastating and long-lasting. Students with dyslexia often graduate from high school functionally illiterate and face a lifetime of obstacles to independent living. This past year, DREDF, along with co-counsel Jacobson Education Law, who is also here in the back, and Goodwin Proctor LLP, filed a class action lawsuit against Berkeley Unified School District for the district's failure to comply with federal and state laws that ensure students with reading disorders, such as dyslexia, receive free and appropriate public education. Less than 2 weeks ago, the judge in the case denied an attempt by the district to throw out the case. And now this important case can move forward. The district's failure to educate students with reading disorders and students who are suspected to have reading disorders will be addressed. And DREDF will continue to work toward a resolution that will serve as a model nationwide. So in other special education work, Arlene Mayerson and Rama Sadasivam are also working with Equal Justice Society, the National Center for Youth Law, and the firm Morrison and Forrester, litigating a case seeking to end Antioch Unified School District's disproportionate suspensions and expulsions of African American students, particularly those with disabilities. But sometimes progress can be slow. So 2 years ago, DREDF, along with the Civil Rights Education and Enforcement Center and the Disability Law Center, filed a case against the Massachusetts Institute for Technology to make their publicly available online courses and videos accessible to people who are deaf or hard of hearing. We are still litigating this case. We are also still litigating our case against the Center for Medicare and Medicaid to make its communications accessible to people who are blind or visually impaired. But we won't give up. Progress takes time, and DREDF is patient and stubborn. So 20 years ago, DREDF filed MSC versus Torlakson, a class action against Ravenswood City School District in East Palo Alto and the California Department of Education to reform failed local and state-level special education policies and practices. Just this past December, after all of these years, we got an incredible ruling from the Ninth Circuit affirming that the California Department of Education must implement a plan to ensure that its state-level special education monitoring system would comply with the federal Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. But Larissa Cummings, again, and DREDF aren't leaving it up to them to implement the compliance system. No, instead, we are actively monitoring the system that CDE creates, and these reforms will have a widespread impact benefiting all students with disabilities across the state. So, healthcare as you have heard, has been in the national news a lot, given the GOP attempts to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Right here, right now, in California, there are people who are being discriminated against in their attempt to access health care here in our home state. Unfortunately, this is a common occurrence. But one would hope that the state of California, of all places, would have an effective system in place to address these complaints. That isn't always the case, as Sylvia Yee, who is in the middle, found out when a man with HIV was told by his treating physician to never return to his office because he had HIV. When this man filed a complaint with his insurance company and then the Department of Healthcare Services, none of them found that he had been discriminated against. DREDA, along with co-counsel Metz Harrison, sued all entities on the basis that they needed to reform their discrimination grievance systems. These are just a few of the examples of cases that DREDA has worked on last year. So rest assured that whether we can publicly talk about our litigation work or not, we're always working to do disability justice here in California and across the nation. Thank you so much for making our work possible.
One more time, give it up for Namita and the legal staff. Thank you, Namita. All right. So, what do you think? Was it green suit? Yeah. Did it go well? Couldn't do this without a few costume changes, don't you? So I also want to thank, since we're talking about the legal work that DREDA does, I want to thank legal community supporters and co-counsel Rosen, Bien, Galvin, and Grunfeld, LLP, Levy, Vinnick, Burrell, Hyams, LLP, Jacobson Education Law, Inc., Campins, Benham Baker, Goldstein, Morgan, Dardarian. Thank you, let's try that again. Goldstein, Morgan, Dardarian, and Hope. Thank all of you for your support. Thank you. So, we've talked a lot about healthcare. I want to talk a little bit about this next video. What we're going to show you next is a short documentary in which The Atlantic, you know The Atlantic, the magazine, right? Well, The Atlantic's Jeremy Raff traveled to the heart of the disability rights movement right here in the East Bay to learn why people with disabilities fear proposed changes to healthcare. Now, in the following short video, which would not have happened without the support and guidance of DREDA's own Mary Lou Breslin. Where's Mary Lou? Thank you, Mary Lou. The current controversy is contextualized. Put into perspective. We have interviews with people like Stacey Milburn, Elena Theriot, Tammy Duckworth, Judith Heumann, and National Adapt's recent protests in D.C. and at the United States Senate. It was produced in part as a project for the USC Center for Health Journalism California Fellowship. Please, and now the video.
These are protesters in front of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's office, many of whom are in wheelchairs.
They're protesting the Medicaid cuts in the Republican health care bill.
President Trump and Republicans in Congress are proposing huge cuts to Medicaid.
The 50-year-old federal safety net, which right now covers about 1 in 5 Americans. People with disabilities may be the first to feel these cuts.
My attendants help me do everything. Getting out of bed and toileting and getting ready for the day. And that's all funded through Medicaid. Hi, Corwin. This is Stacy with Accommodations. I'm able to work right now 40 hours a week, but that's possible because I have attendant support.
Medicaid's budget has been growing in recent years, and it now makes up almost 10% of federal spending.
The largest savings in the Senate's health care proposal would come from reductions in Medicaid spending.
Many Republicans say slowing the growth of Medicaid is crucial to saving it.
Medicaid is a welfare program. It's primarily designed for the indigent elderly, the disabled, the blind, and children.
Obamacare expanded the pool of Medicaid recipients beyond its original intentions.
We have a provision that very slightly slows down the rate at which Medicaid will continue to grow, so that this is actually a sustainable program. I think it's very reasonable.
Entitlement reform has been the holy grail for Republicans for a generation.
So Medicaid, sending it back to the states, capping its growth rate. We've been dreaming of this since I've been around, since you and I were drinking at a keg, you know.
I was thinking about something else. He was thinking about reforming Medicaid.
I was.
Make no mistake, this is a repeal and a replace of Obamacare. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake.
It's important to realize that this isn't just a rollback of Obamacare. It's actually a deep cut of traditional Medicaid programs that cover disabled people and kids. It caps spending over time and reduces it by up to 35% over the next 2 decades. So you're talking billions of dollars here. And with that kind of cut, states really only have a couple of options. They can either raise taxes, they can cut eligibility, or they can cut the services they offer under Medicaid. And one of the services they offer is home services for disabled people.
When I think about being like 18 or 19 years old, it was really challenging because that's when I started to identify as queer or gay, and my parents are evangelical Christian, and so it was really hard to have space to sort out what that means when my family is the one that's providing my day-to-day care. Moving away to me symbolized I'm worth it. I mean, living on my own, which is possible because of attendance sports, means I can live the life I want, and that was a big turning point to me. If I was living with my family because of care needs, then my life would look very different.
My workers are paid $12.50 an hour through the Medicaid program. They bathe me, feed me, get me up into my wheelchair. They drive me to work, set me up. As my needs have become more significant, I need to have people around a lot more often. If I drop the respirator tube, is there going to be someone there to pick it back up, and how long will I be okay without the respirator tube? It's very easy to draw a red line across a piece of paper as a budget item, but they don't know what it really means out in the world. People don't see us as real people. We're just line items. Have a good day. Okay.
Advocates say these services are at risk under Trump's proposed budget because they're considered optional. Medicaid is required to pay for hospital and nursing home care, but not in-home therapy and support.
Those services under the Medicaid program are optional, they're not required. So when states are squeezed for money, they're going to reduce those services or end them altogether, and without that help, they face institutionalization.
I went into the nursing home at age 15. At that point, I was a sophomore in high school, and frankly, when you're in a place with a lot of people yelling and puddles of urine on the floor, it was so clear that everybody was waiting for me to die. There were no plans for my future.
In the 70s and 80s, Medicaid began to be used to provide services in the community rather than institutions so that people could have control over their lives. The fear now is that this is a tremendous loss of hard-won gains by the disability rights movement over the last 4 decades.
No cuts! No cuts! No cuts! No cuts! The America that I love, the America that I defended, we don't leave people behind. We don't say that you don't get a chance to your American dream just because you're different. No cuts, no caps to Medicaid. Thank you.
I was flying a mission just north of Baghdad when my Black Hawk was hit by a rocket propelled grenade, which essentially exploded in my lap. It vaporized my right leg on impact, amputated my left, and took off the back of my right arm. And I spent the next 13 months at a hospital learning to live my life all over again. I think I definitely have a significant insight that, and I can probably safely say that none of my colleagues in the Senate have. Those home healthcare workers are everything for someone who may need a little help getting dressed, who may need help with medication, getting out the door, so that they can live those full, productive lives.
About 50 of us got arrested today. We've been here waiting for them to come out.
Us in the wheelchair, breaking the chains.
Medicaid paid for my shower today, made it so I was able to eat breakfast, helped me put on my clothes. How's it going? I breathe because of Medicaid, my ventilator. I move through the world because of a wheelchair funded by Medicaid. Medicaid touches everything in my life and makes everything possible, and it's not just healthcare, but it's really about my ability to participate in society is because of Medicaid programs.
Let's hear it again. Let's hear it again for that video. It was a breakthrough. That video, to my mind, as a media guy, was a breakthrough for numerous reasons. Among them, and most importantly, is the censoring of disabled activists in the reporting, right? That it dealt with us, talked to us about our stories and what the impact was to the disability community at large. And that's significant. And that's what we want to see more of. That's why I'm here. Speaking of breakthroughs, we just found out for the first time in Dredup's 38 years that the Ford Foundation has awarded Dredup a grant. Yes. Woo! People have been working on this for a long time. Since my hair was not blonde. And why have they done this? Well, numerous reasons. I think largely it's because we work well with others. You know? Do you have any idea how many collaborative relationships we have? Take a moment when we're done here, talk to Susan, talk to Ingrid, they'll clue you in, I promise. If you have a spare afternoon, you know, they'll give you all the details. So I'd like to lead us in a rousing chorus now of anything Ford can fund, you can fund also. Anything Ford can fund, you can fund too. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Don't forget. Thanks. Told you. They were like, I don't know, is he going to sing? It's a live mic. What's Lawrence going to do? So I had to break something out. So, we were talking a little bit earlier about the work that we do with students and parents. So I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Isabel Bueso. Isabel, come on up. Can we get the stand put down a little bit? Good. You get your speak today, Isabel? Yeah? All right. Is that a good sign? A good level? Is the mic? So let me tell you a little bit about Isabel. Isabel is a 22-year-old senior at Cal State East Bay. Yeah! And she's the director of Associated Students Incorporated at the Concord campus. She's working toward becoming a sociologist so she can build on her experiences to help others with disabilities. Isabel, it's all yours.
Thank you.
Julie Barraza can be next to me. Julie, can you come, please? Hi. Thank you to Greta for your recognition this evening. As you have heard, my name is Isabel Pueso. I first got to know Greta and your work back in 2009 when I was 13 or 14 years old. And since then, for over 18 years now, I continue to work with Greta in a variety of ways. The foundation that we built during my childhood of advocacy and self-determination has served me and hope the disability community well. For example, early this year, I had the honor to travel to Washington, D.C. to speak to elected officials and their staff about the barrier faced by people with rare diseases and other disabilities, which is, in part, why we are here today. First, I'd like to share my sincere gratitude to the dozens of people without whom this wouldn't have been possible. I always believe that it takes all of us working together, policy people, act as family, to make the kind of changes we need to see in this world. This event, this night, and Greta's work in bringing those important components together are what separates your approach from others to the others in the disability arena. As much I have appreciated this recognition and as grateful as I am for it, the greatest reward I could ever receive in this opportunity to help the next generation to learn how to think in more inclusive ways about the world that surrounds them and to nurture ways to help them make the world they live in and beyond more accessible for everyone, just as Greta's work and Adapt Access has done for me. I wouldn't be here tonight with Greta's assistance and expertise, especially Juliet Barraza, who helped me in my middle school and high school years. She has been a constant source of support and wisdom while hearing about my rights. She fought with my school for me to have nurses in the morning and in the afternoon, for medical needs, a computer, because I used to get tired of writing, but also because my textbooks were on CDs. I remember I used to have a card from Julie as a reminder to not be afraid to ask for things that to help in my academic, because like anyone, I have my rights. Half of the woman that I am today is because of her. And I truly am grateful to know her. And I'm truly grateful to know her and equally grateful to be able to put in the practice the knowledge I learned from her and Greta when I started advocating for other people with disabilities. Some of what I learned and tried to pay forward include creating a scholarship at my university for students with disabilities, bring awareness for the past 4 years by creating Rare Disease Day on February. Went to Washington, D.C. to fight for more research for Rare Disease Day. Act as a spokesperson for pharmaceuticals such as Sangamo and Primarine about my condition, and share my history, story, and advocacy with the world. So please take a moment tonight to think about how you can help support the young people who will be the disability leaders of the next generation. Tomorrow's problem will need outside-the-box, hard-working individuals to solve them, and the only way the next generation will reach their potential is if we as a community find meaningful ways to support not only the students themselves, but also the teachers and the countless other people that they rely on for continuous independence. Thank you so much, everyone. It's really an honor to be here and celebrate with all of you. Thank you.
I'm not letting you off the stage without getting a picture with me. All right, you ready? Let's turn here. Julie, you want to get up there? Sure. Come on. All right, let's go. Who's got a dry eye? Anybody? Anybody got a dry eye? All right, check your pulse. If you've got a dry eye, check your pulse. Something's dreadfully wrong.
We're proud.
All right. So, what's left? Oh, you're going to move my podium now? In real time? All right, thank you.
Let's do it. Maryland's next.
All right, so Senator Tammy Duckworth, you saw her earlier? Yeah. Right? She has a special message for ADAPT and for all of you here tonight. Junior United States Senator from Illinois since 2017, Iraq War veteran and retired United States Army Lieutenant Colonel Tammy Duckworth served as a U.S. Army helicopter pilot, and as she mentioned before, encountered severe combat wounds which led to the amputation of both her legs and also damaged her right arm. She was the first female double amputee from the war. She's become an outspoken advocate for people with disabilities, and she lends her support to DREDF and ADAPT tonight. Please take a look at this message. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Senator Tammy Duckworth from Illinois. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there with you to celebrate the Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund's 38th anniversary. I'm thrilled to recognize ADAPT advocates from across the country who've been fighting for such a long time. You organized and fought to defend civil rights, to ensure equal access to education, housing, employment, and to promote the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And most recently, you who quite literally put your bodies on the line to protect the health care of millions of Americans over the last few months. Your courage and bravery were crucial to our ability to successfully fight back against the efforts to rob our nation's most vulnerable of their health care. You were there in Washington, D.C., in local congressional districts, fighting for your lives every single day. You are the true warriors. You fought to defend Medicaid, a program that 1 in 10 veterans, 2 out of 3 nursing home residents, and children with autism, Down syndrome, and special needs all depend on. This program pays for home aides, physical therapists, counselors, and school nurses, each of whom work every day to ensure that the millions of Americans who have disabilities are able to live with dignity and participate fully as equal members of our society. But the fight isn't over. The future of Medicaid is still under threat, and the lives of millions of Americans are still in jeopardy. This is not the time to cut back on safety net programs. It's time to start working together to improve them and expand access to quality, affordable health care. We're also fighting to defend the existing Americans with Disabilities Act protections. 27 years after the ADA became law of the land, the notion that businesses in this country need more time to provide people with disabilities access to their services is ridiculous and offensive. The so-called ADA Education and Reform Act is a disgrace to advocates who literally crawled up the steps of the Capitol to secure the protections enshrined in the ADA, as well as to those who value liberty and justice for all. So again, thank you for your ongoing leadership and vigilance on the progress we have made and the many battles we face. You have an ally in Washington in me. Please continue to make your voices heard. I am here to listen, and we are in this fight together.
All right. Can you tell it's the grand finale? I'm getting ready to introduce Marilyn Golden. And I couldn't introduce Marilyn Golden without being golden. Thank you very much. So Marilyn is the JUDIP's senior policy analyst. She's been closely involved with the Americans with Disabilities Act throughout all stages, including its proposal, the passage, and of course implementation. Highly lauded ADA trainer, Marilyn has directed and led numerous in-depth programs on the ADA, which has given thousands of people comprehensive knowledge, making the law a reality. She is the principal author of the JUDIP publication, The ADA, an Implementation Guide, the Blue Book, JUDIP's highly respected ADA curriculum. In the 27 years since the ADA's passage, Marilyn has continued to play a key role in policy development on a federal level in the areas of transportation, architectural barriers, and opposing assisted suicide laws. Please welcome Marilyn Golden. Oh, China. Okay, to go? Yeah. Take it away.
It's my honor tonight to introduce Bruce Darling of ADAPT. So I'm about to do that. Hey everyone. Hey! Hi. I've known ADAPT for a long time, and they know how to achieve results. I met them in 1987 at an action in Phoenix for wheelchair-accessible buses. This is before we had the Americans with Disabilities Act. And that action included my first arrest. ADAPT is a legend in the disability community. It is so many things. Particularly, it's a national grassroots direct action organization. ADAPT actions feature protests by large numbers of disability advocates, most of whom are individuals with significant disabilities. And I cannot tell you how many disability advocates across the country report that joining into an ADAPT action changed their lives. Yeah. This can be true for you as well. Yay. And by the way, the disability rights movement includes everyone who fights for our goals. You don't have to be a person with a disability. So anyone in this room can join an ADAPT action. Where was I? And as far as I can tell, ADAPT has always had the most diversity in terms of race, in terms of class. I could go on, and you could read their eloquent statement in your program booklet. ADAPT has been there on many issues. After a many years-long campaign, they handily won the issue of accessible buses, securing it in the ADA of 1990. And they did great work on the issue of Greyhound buses before largely shifting their focus from transportation to personal assistance, attendance, and all the issues related to long-term care. And all of us who are growing older, is there anyone here who's not growing older? Anyone who is? I am, and I know how important this work is. They wisely focused their attention where the money is, on Medicaid. Their long-term care work has been extremely important. ADAPT is either responsible for or merits a significant part of the credit for pretty much every advance and every program that we've had in this area for quite a few years. And of course, this year, this special year for ADAPT on healthcare, their recent fame may be new in terms of the level it's become today as a household word, when the DC news cameras beautifully captured police pulling wheelchair users out of their wheelchairs, and when ADAPT's work to guard Medicaid and preserve the Affordable Care Act became a household name and earned the praise of our entire nation. So that level of fame may have been new, but for ADAPT, what they were doing was business as usual. This wasn't the first, only the most well-known set of ADAPT actions in DC and across the US. Yes, ADAPT are experts on in-the-street protests in every form, but ADAPT's expertise is not only in the streets. Adapters are also policy experts. They played a key role in reorganizing the funding and the very concept of how long-term care is conceptualized in this country. I salute not only their pressure tactics, but their excellent early analysis of how to attack this problem, not a small thing. On a personal level, ADAPT leaders supported me when I was arrested, applauded me when I captured the right arguments on the ADA rules for Greyhound, and haven't hesitated to give me a course correction when needed. ADAPT's support of my work absolutely includes our most honored guest tonight, that of Bruce Darling, who will be with you very, very shortly. Bruce, you've been supportive and encouraging and affirming, which I deeply appreciate. Bruce's own work achievements are immense, and I encourage you to read about them in your program booklet. He's not only a heck of a lot of fun, but he is very, very serious when it comes to basically disability liberation and healthcare for all. And he has made that a reality in so many ways. I cannot list them, but there's a few good paragraphs in your book about it. And he deserves your applause. For all these reasons, it is Dredef's honor, in a few minutes, to present ADAPT with the 2017 Rudy Frank Award for Activism. But first, I'm thrilled to present to you Bruce Darling.
Okay, so I'm completely off script immediately, so whoever took less than 4 seconds in the pool won. It's an honor to be on the stage with Marilyn Golden, my personal hero since like 1985, and the apparent reincarnation of Elvis. I have to say this was one of those things I never expected to incur in my life, but you know, yay. All right, so a little more seriously. Thank you. Many of us carried the ADAPT banner and fought the repeal of Obamacare and the Medicaid cuts. So when we recognize ADAPT for saving healthcare, that's an acknowledgement of the work we all have done. And I really want to reinforce that. It's the work we all have done. And it was amazing work. Following the arrests in McConnell's office, our community sustained a level of direct action over time and geography that had never before been achieved. It was awesome to watch and to be a part of. Some of our community put their bodies on the line, literally. We were assaulted, injured, and jailed. But the images of disabled Americans being dragged away by police, thrown on the ground, and dumped out of their wheelchairs were visceral. Our community's collective work in mainstream and social media, helping the non-disabled world understand those images and our message, literally transformed the discussion about healthcare into one about civil rights. It was a great victory, but the events of this year have the potential to change so much more. So it seems that progressives have generally assumed that when supporting disability rights, it was some form of charity. So when ADAPT pushed Democrats and Democratic leadership to support our cause and our legislation, the Disability Integration Act, we were frequently told, we were frequently told the disability community didn't raise enough money or wasn't a strong enough voting bloc to matter. We were told this. We didn't contribute, what does that sound like, Marilyn? So we didn't deserve the support. We can see the impact of that. Democrats feel comfortable co-sponsoring H.R. 620, a bill that undercuts the ADA, and freely ignore our request that they co-sponsor the Disability Integration Act, a bill that ensures our freedom. So I'd like to point out that although we talk about disability rights are bipartisan, the opposition to disability rights is also bipartisan. But things changed this year when we, and I underscore we, saved healthcare. We aren't asking for charity anymore. Our protests have demonstrated that we can and do contribute, and we can leverage that success. So as a gay man, I understand this firsthand. Okay, so for more years than I can remember, the LGBTQ community was a stepchild to the Democrats. We dutifully donated to a party whose members routinely assured us they wouldn't ask, expected us not to tell, and publicly opposed our right to marry. That only changed when the LGBTQ community demanded respect and support. The disability community can do the same damn thing. And frankly, California is the perfect place to make this happen. With 2 Democratic senators and 39 Democrats in the House, including the minority leader, there are still only 4 Democrats co-sponsoring the Disability Integration Act. And worse, California has 6 Democrats co-sponsoring H.R. 620, a bill whose name I refuse to learn. Would the LGBTQ community accept that? Absolutely not. And neither should the disability community, or the multitude of communities within the disability community. With our collective victory in saving Obamacare, we have the moral high ground. Let's use it. We must keep reminding people that there is no downside to inclusion of people with disabilities. When the disability community wins, everyone wins. And it goes both ways. Dredif's vocal and visible support for community engagement leading up to and during the recent No Hate San Francisco campaign, I don't know how you say it here, but I see the signs, that rally is a wonderful example of this principle in action. Justice work is changing. It's intersectional and it supports each other. Thankfully, more activists and lawmakers are acknowledging that organizing is done in ways that cross intersections, and none of us is in this alone. And we've seen that with progressives during the fight for health care, during our struggles. We saw support go back and forth between the disability community and the broader progressive community. What others say and do, and what the disability community does, influences the greater whole. And we've had enough segregation in our histories. There need to be no more silos. There is no lane that the disability community needs to stay in because people with disabilities are in every lane. Everyone who, and anyone who doesn't understand that is increasingly behind the times. We can and should demand that the progressive tent be both bigger and more accessible. I know it's hard when you are literally thousands of miles away from the front lines to resist Trump. I got calls from folks in California all the time saying, for God's sakes, what can we do? So during the fight over healthcare, which continues, folks in California took action. Some were able to make trips to other places, but many more were looking for ways to make a difference at home. So I'm asking you that while those of us who are deep inside red states and territories continue the fight to resist Trump, I'm calling on you to leverage our success in resisting Trump. Ensure that the Democrats and progressives understand disability rights are civil rights and that they need to act accordingly. It will take all of us working together to do disability justice. So I'm calling on you, get your California Democrats off of HR 620, that horrible bill. Get them on the Disability Integration Act, because disabled Americans deserve life and liberty like everyone else. Because there is no damn asterisk in the Constitution that says, unless you're disabled. Push them hard. We can do this just as we've done with saving Medicaid. And I applaud Dredif's work against legalizing assisted suicide. Marilyn Golden, as I said, my personal hero, worked on this has worked on this front, and it's a great example of Dredif's critically important national leadership, and leadership that we all, including ADAPT, follow. Thank you for that. People across the country, including me, appreciate your ever-vigilant work, both in the public eye and behind the scenes, on behalf of our community and our movement. Thank you very much. And Susan, watching you here tonight as people came up to the stage, it was an honor to see just how proud you were of everyone and how supportive you were. I wish everyone could have seen your face while folks were talking. So thank you for, yes, absolutely, Susan. So thank you for everything you're doing, and finally, thank you for recognizing ADAPT this evening. It is truly an honor to be here. Thank you.
I just asked Bruce to pick up the thing I'm supposed to present to him. So let's go over when we're not blocked. This is the Rudy Frank Award for Activism. It shows the gavel representing in some circles true power, and ADAPT sure deserves it. So thanks for coming.
Is yours? All right. We gonna pose? Strike a pose. All right. All right.
Power to the people!
All right. And with that, yes. We'll talk after. There's only one thing. I'll give you an answer to that with my final remarks. I appreciate everybody's time, everybody's attention, all your support for the work that we do and for coming out tonight. And with that, that only leaves one last thing to say to you, Jim, and to everybody else. Thank you very much.
Elvis has left the building. Thank you and good night.